Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Saints FC podcast hosted on the Ugly Insiders YouTube channel. It's been a little bit of a break, but John and Tom are back for episode 21 and they cover the last 5 Southampton Premier League games, from the abysmal loss at Anfield to the many reasons to be cheerful and hopeful from the games against Everton, Manchester City, Bournemouth and Arsenal. Pellegrino is finally working out how to make Saints tick, showing some tactical nous, and players like Pierre Emile Hojbjerg, Jack Stevens and Charlie Austin get their season going. Charlie Austin in particular has some extra special love from the Saints FC podcast for his 4 goals, and we try to work out what is up with Pep Guardiola after his bizarre confrontation with Nathan Redmond. So without further ado, over to John and Tom for this week's episode.
Here's Sims. It's a good service from Southampton. They could finish the job here. It's Shane Long, and he has done it. Just a minute to play. That's stoppage time. Here's Letizia. Who better to say farewell than one of the finest players ever to wear the red and white.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Saints FC podcast. We're back after a little break. Tom's got some rather exciting personal news. I don't know if he wanted to go on that, get onto that on the podcast or not. But
well, I wouldn't want to disappoint any female listeners, but I'm now engaged.
yeah, well, congratulations, Tom.
Thank you very much, John.
Obviously, the best way to get an invite to Tom's wedding party next year is to get onto iTunes and leave a wonderful review to the Saints FC podcast. 5-star reviews might get you a place at the top table. 4-star reviews probably get you in, evening guest.
It's a descending order of hospitality, but I can promise a 5-star review will be well worth your while.
Okay, excellent. Big shout out to Dunners82. He gave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Thank you very much for doing that. Also, Binbot as well gave us a nice review. The Ugly Inside Boys have been on, along with a few others, Nick Paulin, Pete St. Nine, Daniel O'Connor. Anyway, we really enjoy reading the reviews. Also, some of you have put a few tips on how we can improve the podcast. You can do that in the reviews and tweets. You can email us, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com, or if you want to get in contact with us on Twitter, it's @saintsfcpodcast. Now, because it has been a little while since we last spoke, Tom, we've got an awful lot of ground to cover.
Rattle through this.
Yeah. So let's start off with Saints' trip to Anfield. So last season we played Liverpool 4 times. We beat them twice, I think. We didn't concede a single goal in the 4 matches. Liverpool this season, they are a different prospect to how they were last season. Mohamed Salah is looking like an absolute weapon of a player, isn't he? And Saints went into this game in some pretty rough form. If you follow the kind of Saints FC hashtag on Twitter, you can see that the manager was getting a lot of pelters. We even had a bit of a Pellegrino out campaign on Twitter going on. Some fans were calling for the manager's head. And I think after that 3-0 loss to Liverpool, a lot of Saints fans would have been looking at that and feeling like, well, something's really, really got to change here. It was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's probably the lowest point of the season. I mean, Wolves runs a close run thing. Liverpool are really good and they're going to steamroll a lot of people, but I think it was the first time in a number of years that people had questioned Saints' effort, and that's what I think what really stung.
I think the players were aware of it as well. I think they came off and they realised that they had been schooled in quite a big way. Perhaps before this match, and including, in fact, this match, the Saints players have kind of been cruising through the season a little bit. I don't think we've necessarily seen a really big effort. I think they've got confidence in their own ability and they thought they could just kind of cruise through the season, do okay.
Well, I think they took the negativity from the Burnley game, which was the last game I was at, and it very hostile, from quite early on, and then particularly obviously from when Burnley scored. And I think that this was kind of the nadir of Saints' season. For me, we're seeing good teams get absolutely hammered by Liverpool, but again, it was the effort, and I think that's what really scared people, is have we kind of lost that spirit? And I think it was quite a worrying time. So
really, for the next game, who better for your opponents could you have than an Everton that were floundering? They were having kind of manager problems. They got rid of Koeman, as we know, but they hadn't actually replaced him. We still had David Unsworth.
It would have been, that was the only way it could have been better if Koeman had still been in charge.
Yeah, that would have been really quite wonderful. But Saints didn't only just kind of go to Everton and just like scrape a result or play reasonably well. They actually went and they played fantastically well against Everton.
I think we saw with Charlie, we'll talk about Charlie Austin a lot, it's inevitable, but I think he's given the team a real focal point, a real impetus. We were saying earlier that we're a team that for a number of years, really from Ricky Lambert onwards, we've played with a big target man. And I think some of our best football has been played with a big target man. I think against Everton, you saw what a player of Charlie Austin's calibre can do. He rattles people, he gets in people's faces. People don't like it, and it was a really great performance with brilliant goals.
Yeah, those two Charlie Austin headers I really, really enjoyed. But actually, the goal which I most enjoyed, and I think this might surprise people because Stephen Davis had a very tidy finish, but Tadic's goal was really, really nice. I really liked it. It was very clever how he moved it from his right foot to his left and just slid it into the bottom corner. All in a split second.
Well, when I first saw it, I didn't get it. I thought he'd scuffed it because you watch it from the angle, sort of from the left-hand side, so where the play comes from. It looks like he scuffs it, and then only when you see it from behind do you see this really deft change of feet, just to do enough to get it past Pickford. But what was brilliant with that goal as well is it actually, my favourite bit was Boufal tackling back at left back, knocking the young Everton player off the ball, and with a brilliant pass, sort of dissecting three Everton players to get the move going. It kind of showed for me how far Boufal has come this year in terms of his effort and how he's bulked out.
He's improved a lot, Boufal, and I remember in games last season when we bring him on with like 60, 70 minutes or whatever, and it was just kind of like, well, you kind of know he's not. I mean, okay, so he can change the game, there's the potential, but it's going to be really, really, really frustrating. And the only way that he's going to change the game is if he does an individual piece of brilliance, which we saw twice last season, we've seen once this season. But now he's contributing something to the team in terms of like, he can pick up the ball, he can run with it, he can hold up the ball, he can tackle, he can start a move. There's a lot more to Boufal now, isn't there? Yeah,
and I think we saw a little bit of the old Boufal against Bournemouth, where maybe I think you tried a bit too hard. But what he's not doing now is always trying to beat 4 or 5 people. He's just using the ball very intelligently. He's definitely been in the gym. He said recently that he spent 4 weeks over the summer when he could have been on holiday practicing. He looks bigger, he looks stronger, he looks more suited to the physical attributes of the British game.
Yeah. And another player I think we need to talk about in the win against Everton is Pierre Emile Hojbjerg.
Who? You've not been around all season.
Yeah, I mean, totally coming from the cold. To be honest, having seen Saints playing this season with Stephen Davis, with Mario Lemina, with Romeo, with James Ward-Prowse, with Tadic, Redmond, I mean, we've got loads and loads and loads of players in midfield. Lots of them can play in the centre as well. And I didn't really see there being much of a position for him in this Saints squad. It's certainly not around kind of regular starts in the first team.
Well, they looked for a time where you would just kind of see Romeo and Lemina, and that's kind of holding midfield role to destroyers. But you don't go to Bayern Munich at 18 and play lots of games under Pep Guardiola. You don't play like 35 games for the Danish national team by the age of 22 unless you are a really, really good footballer. And he shows a great engine. He's got brilliant vision of passing. What we've not seen is goals, but he appears to kind of galvanise the team a little bit. It's really exciting.
I think that was the best performance I've seen of Pierre Emile Hojbjerg so far, was the game against Everton. And it's funny, you look at a game where it's a 4-1 win, Charlie Austin's got a brace. You're looking to the attacking players for saying, right, well, these are your potential for the man of the match. But for me, it was him.
Yeah, well, you need to have unsung heroes. So Stephen Davis is, at Saints, we've got Stephen Davis, who is the archetypal unsung hero footballer. Other teams might look at him and sort of say, well, how does he, what does he bring to the game? But when you watch them week in, week out, you realise what he does. And Saints have pace in Redmond, and to slightly less extent with Tadic, but certainly with Bertrand and with Cedric. And we need people who can recycle that ball and get it quickly out of defence and onto attack. And Hojbjerg does that.
I thought he did the kind of perfect box-to-box midfielder performance. He was strong in the tackle, great with the passing, really good touch, really good vision. And yeah, you're right. He was recycling the ball, from defence to attack. And Saints just looked really, really good with him kind of pulling the strings there in the middle.
It helped that Everton were ragged. They're all over the place, but you still got to beat them. And what we've seen with Allardyce now, it's the same players, and they're turning it around a little bit. Everton, so well played to everyone there for a great result.
Yeah, Sigurdsson won the goal again. He always
does
scores
it every time,
doesn't
isn't it?
he? Yeah.
We'll come to someone else who does it against us every time, shortly.
Yeah. So next we're heading up to the Etihad. This was a free hit as far as I was concerned. Anything better than a 4-0 loss to Manchester City, I think.
Cricket score was the fear.
Yeah. We played again really well.
Yeah.
It was very much a kind of like everyone behind the ball, kind of, I suppose, a blitz spirit type.
Gung ho.
Yeah.
I think it's what we've seen. I think the Liverpool point, it's a good way to start the podcast with the Liverpool game, because it was, I think, the low point of the season, and then we can talk about going onwards and upwards. What we've seen with particularly the Man City game is people that stop questioning, and definitely now the Arsenal game, stop questioning Pellegrino's tactical nous. He was kind of widely derided for the sort of lineup before the Man City game, and Pep Guardiola coming out and saying Southampton should attack more. Well, if you attack more away at Manchester City, you lose 6 or 7-0. That's they want you to attack.
I think we should get on to Pep. I mean, that is the most ludicrous thing to say. He was really annoyed because Saints had almost burst his bubble.
The fraud.
Yeah, it was. I think Pellegrino got it absolutely spot on. You don't go to Man City and try and play attacking football.
Well, you can't go to Man City and try and be Man City.
No, I mean they are arguably the best club team in Europe at the moment. I mean, certainly in the Premier League.
It's fair to say them and Bayern Munich.
I think they're the best team that I've seen since the Arsenal Invincible side, and potentially they could be.
And they have goals from everywhere.
Yeah.
Even Otamendi, 5 goals in Premier League now?
But Saints, who couldn't buy a goal, a few weeks ago, we actually got a goal against Man City.
And a bloody good goal as well.
Romeo, although I do fear that if he was any further away from the goal, he would have actually skied that. He managed to get it right into the roof of the net from about 6 yards out.
Just.
Yeah, and Yoshida as well. God, we could have had 2 goals against Man City.
And Hoyt's was probably arguably the easiest. But for the goal, Romero's goal, what brilliance. I think it's kind of been lost now because we lost, but what brilliance of Buffal.
Oh, the touch was magic.
It just pulls out of the sky, leaves Delph for dead. Fantastic.
It was a beautiful thing to watch, that touch from Buffal. There's loads and loads of positives here. I think... the goal from Sterling, these things happen. It was devastating to concede so late on. Actually, I think Van Dijk's own goal, there's more questions to be asked from that. I think that's the kind of goal that we should be able to defend against.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, De Bruyne is up there, probably one of the best players in Europe at the moment. It's a clever free kick, and there's an argument to say it maybe is a bit symptomatic of a Van Dijk that is coasting a little bit and is a little bit not as on it as he was pre-injury. And whether that's because he wants to leave or whether because he's still not fit or he's still not up to the pace, I don't know. But it did seem a little bit careless from him.
I don't think he's operating at 100% at the moment, Van Dijk.
That's fair to say.
I think the Van Dijk pre-injury last season, Okay, yeah. I mean, we still conceded goals when we managed to kind of build him up, I think, in our heads whilst he was out injured that, well, if Van Dijk was here, we would never concede any of these goals. Of course, we conceded goals when he was in the team. But there's certain goals like that one where he got the own goal. Also kind of think like the Giroud goal.
The most inevitable goal in the history of inevitable goals.
Exactly, yeah. And I think those are the kind of goals that we should perhaps be defending. So we lose 2-1. It was a really, I think, good performance, a clever way of playing. I think you're right, Pellegrino, tactically spot on. Saints had gone from having all this possession and being very, very ineffective into this match being a team that, weren't ever going to have much possession, but being quite effective. The fact that Romeo did score a goal, that Yoshida had a good chance, that Hoot had a really good chance. We potentially could have scored 3 goals at the Etihad. That tells you, without, I don't even know what the possession stats were, but it was...
They were all over us.
I think they were about 70% possession, Man City. So if you can get 3 really, really good chances for scoring a goal when you have very little of the ball, that shows you being effective. That's good tactics.
Yeah, and I think again, tactically he was spot on. He realised that you can't go and play Man City at Man City's game. He's getting it. I think we're kind of seeing the reconnaissance of Pellegrino.
Man, it's about time, isn't it?
Had to happen.
Pep Guardiola and Nathan Redmond. This was really bizarre.
It's weird.
Tom, I mean, just in case there's any Saints fans that have somehow managed to avoid this, tell us, what did you see on the pitch when this happened?
Well, you saw like a very not distraught, but like a very upset Saints team who come very, very close to doing something that only one other team had done all season. Trudge off the pitch, jubilant Man City players, like people who have lost legs and are like running onto the pitch. And poor Redmond sort of just trudging off, and I don't know, Guardiola's just in his face, like screaming at him, like spit flying everywhere. And, Redmond does this thing where he kind of puts his hand over his mouth to reply. So he does it all very dignified. It's a wonder that Redmond just didn't smack him. But yeah, I think it's just such a weird reaction. I just don't get it.
It's strange, isn't it? It's almost kind of like, I think we got that close to robbing points off Man City, for the first time since Everton did it earlier in the season. And I think Pellegrino must have really felt this was a big slight on him, because the manager, basically, it's not Pellegrino, it's Pep Guardiola felt like, Pellegrino's outsmarted him, because he kind of had.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their play, they've got goals in every... Yeah. Got ridiculous attacking talent.
And so I think Pep's feeling quite on edge at this point. He gets the really exciting victory. But then that spilling of emotion and launching it at Nathan Redmond, who admittedly he did have a fantastic game at the Etihad last season.
Yeah, he tore him to pieces. But I think that's what he was saying. He was saying, you got to play that game. But part of being a footballer, I imagine, is being tactically disciplined. And if you want to look at what happens when they're not, look at Benteke on Saturday. Look at, he takes that ball off Mihailovic, who is the designated penalty taker, and he misses.
Yeah.
And that is that's a form of indiscipline. And Redmond, if Redmond hadn't been disciplined and maybe hadn't trapped back, we might have lost 3 or 4.
Yeah.
They have to kind of be disciplined.
And it's really, of course, Pep wants you to go to the Etihad and try and play football, because if you go and try and play football at the Etihad, you will get beaten by them, because Manchester City are the best footballing team in the country at the moment.
Easily.
And last season they weren't so much.
Yeah, no, well, last season as well, they looked weak at the back.
Yeah.
This season, they players like even Otamendi have stepped up.
I mean, they also had a goalkeeper that couldn't stop shots last year, which is...
Yeah. I mean, they look nailed on. Yeah. If you have any money that's not in Bitcoin, then put it on Man City.
I think it's too late for that, Tom. I mean, the odds are just going to be... there's going to be practically no point there. Right, so let's move on. I think after the Man City performance, we have Bournemouth next. I think probably most of us were hoping that we would go to Bournemouth and win this one. Having shown a bit more resolve, having beaten Everton, having had such good performance at Man City, you want to go to Bournemouth and win, don't you?
But Bournemouth are no mugs, and they'd won 3 on the bounce before losing against Burnley, who are also very good, particularly away from home. So I did think there was maybe a sort of sense of I think Saints fans thought this would be easy, and I don't really know why anyone thought it would be easy. Plus points. Some of the players played really well. I think Charlie Austin's goal was excellent. Redmond, when he came on, looked good. Negative points. Hoyt. My dad, I was watching the go in with my dad, and my dad said, you look at Hoyt, he's done that twice. He's going to get caught. Yeah. And he did.
He was showing a little bit of Artur Buric about him there, wasn't he? Yeah.
And Pierre not being back. I don't know what Pierre was doing. I think we've missed Suarez a little bit. But positive. I mean, I think if we can draw away games, that's good. Yeah, that is good. I mean,
and also coming back from 1-0 down.
Yeah.
Let's think about earlier.
We should have won as well, I think.
Earlier on the season, Saints go 1-0 down, and I would be convinced that was it. It's all over for us. We had no spirit or fight earlier on the season, and something has changed over the past few weeks.
If Charlie Austin, I almost think that ball was too good for Charlie Austin for the header towards the end. But again, it was a resilient performance. The team spirit looked good. Players that were been out of form, like Bertrand, are suddenly looking very, very good again. Fraser Forster's looking good. There's reasons to be cheerful after the Bournemouth game.
Yeah, and I think you're right as well about Nathan Redmond had a good game against Bournemouth. Does he come on at half time?
He came on half time for an invisible James Ward-Prowse, who the game totally passed by. All you can do if you're Redmond is come on and make an impact. And he set up the goal with a very clever cross, and he looked troublesome. Sooner or later, I mean, this doesn't mean anything, but I was playing FIFA the other night and Redmond's got a hat-trick. So you wait, this is coming.
Oh dear, I think we're going to start clutching at straws if we're going to start talking about FIFA performances. I guess it's quite interesting to hear that there's some quite unusual things happening here. So, like Redmond having quite a good game, Ward-Prowse getting hooked at half-time. You think kind of Ward-Prowse getting hooked at half-time probably means he doesn't get into the starting lineup against Arsenal, but he does. And, obviously Pierre, he's been binned for his mistake, and the same with Hoot as well.
But good. I think Pierre did look very good, but Pierre, one of the great things about Cedric is he's really good at attacking. He's also very good at defending, and he's very strong. And I like the way there's a great moment against Everton where Pierre just throws Sigurdsson out of the way to create a chance. But Pierre just looked a little bit, as you'd expect for someone who's not played any football all season, just off the races. And obviously we knew against Arsenal we need someone who's very tactically disciplined. Ward-Prowse looked very, very good against Arsenal.
Yeah.
He looked like the player they got in the England squad.
He did. So let's move on to yesterday, Sunday. I think most people listen to this on Tuesday or Wednesday. So, Sunday against Arsenal. Midday kickoff. Never
12 is that even a thing?
It shouldn't be, should it?
Sounds like old men, but it just shouldn't be allowed.
I remember back in the old days when football used to happen at 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah. So anyway, that little... How old are you now, Tom, after your birthday?
36 now.
36, yeah.
Sad times.
Time's moving on. Well,
I can barely remember the game from Sunday, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I can. So, we had the game against Arsenal. I was feeling a little bit more confident about this game. I actually thought we might get something out of it at the start. I didn't expect we would start quite as well as we did, though. Straight from the off.
Flyer.
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. And Charlie Austin started that game absolutely brilliant. So
like a man possessed.
Yeah, so the build up to that goal, he wins the header from the throw-in.
Great pass.
Yeah, he does a great pass. Links up with Tadic brilliantly. He makes the run into the box. Tadic is looking over towards his left, maybe looking like he's going to push it out to his left foot and take a shot. The Arsenal players are definitely not seeing what he's just about to do, which is do this incredible no-look
reverse
pass through ball for Charlie Austin to run onto. One touch, tees himself up lovely, and then just dinks it past Czech.
That's what Tadic should be doing. Like, he's so talented. This is why Saints fans get angry at Tadic, is because they know that he is so talented, and he's starting to weigh in with assists now. But that kind of no-look reverse pass is exactly why he is there. And he was brilliant for a lot of the game. He created a lot of chances.
It's the kind of thing that he does for Serbia more regularly than he does for Saints, despite the fact he plays for Saints about 10 times more regularly than he does for Serbia.
Yeah, it was just, it's what you have him there for. He's such a clever player, and we spoke earlier about this, but I do think we're better playing with a big target man. We've tried to change the way we play. We brought in Gabbiadini, who's a fantastic player, but this kind of subtle off the shoulder thing. But maybe our style of play is better suited to a big lad up front, and who can hold the ball up and can barge people out of the way. And Tadic looks like a man revitalised because of it.
He really looked like he was enjoying his football on Sunday, I thought.
Yeah, I think he looks like he wants to contribute. He's now scored a goal against Everton. He looks more like he's up for it. And he is such a clever, tricky player.
Yeah. And building up to the World Cup as well, I suppose he probably wants to be in good form going into that.
Yeah, he's 28, so he's got one more big move probably left in him.
Yeah. Oh, do you think he's looking for a move? I kind of think
they're all looking for. Everyone's looking for a move, aren't they?
What, from Saints? Yeah.
No, but you got to be realistic. If he goes and has a really good World Cup,
yeah. I suppose, yeah, you're right. He could
go to like one of the big Italian clubs, and why not? But he looked really good, and it was a great assist, and it was one of a number of really clever chances that he created on Sunday.
And so we've just watched back the highlights once again, just have another look, just to agonise over the missed chances as well. But those first 10 minutes, Tadic and Austin were just going for it, weren't they?
Yeah, hell for leather.
Austin getting caught offside a couple of times when perhaps he shouldn't have done.
We think it's not rocket science, but it's because he's a big lad, and he needs to maybe take a step before running because he can't outrun people.
Yeah, and I think Austin is perhaps a couple of beers a week less, maybe half an hour extra in the gym more, perhaps a slightly more refined diet away from being a really, really classy player.
He scores goals. They give him chances. He scores all types of goals.
Yeah.
They can build that team around him. It'd be interesting if he plays on Wednesday, because obviously he put in a really good shift, 86 minutes. And I think he said after the Everton game, that was the first time in like 18 months he'd played more than 80 minutes of football since I think one of the first games of the Claude Puel reign. Wow. So, we'll see, but I think that he looks, excuse the pun, hungry. He looks like he wants to score goals. And for all he might not be technically the most gifted footballer, but you give him chances, he will score goals.
Do you know what I think a little bit about Charlie Austin at the moment? He's almost a bit like Ricky Lambert when he first joined the Saints. So when Ricky Lambert first joined the Saints from Bristol Rovers, my God, he could score goals. He was an incredible finisher. You could give him the ball, he would score a goal. The rest of his play wasn't quite there yet. And it took him maybe a season and a half to start to get up to fitness, start to kind of develop the other parts of his game, start to kind of develop the awareness around the Saints side, start linking up well with players like Lallana, Richard Chatplay, other players that we had at the time. Yeah. And I think Charlie Austin is perhaps not far off that. He's always got the goal scoring ability. I remember him scoring against us with QPR and with Swindon Town as well.
One touch, didn't they? He had like one half chance against us for QPR.
Yeah. So we know he's got goals in him. And I mean, the last, 4 or 5 games, has he got 4 goals in 5 games now?
Yeah, so he got 2 against Everton, 1 against Arsenal, one against Bournemouth to add to his 2 at the start of the season. He looks great, and he looks really up for it. And I think if we can get him through this very congested run of games, but looking at, we'll look ahead to Wednesday in a bit, but, if he's in the team, I think he lifts the crowd.
Yeah.
And people want to see his name on the team sheet.
It's also great to see him enjoy scoring and the celebrations and bring a bit of fun back to St Mary's, I
agree with that. And I think he gives, maybe there is something of that everyman about him.
Yeah. Like
Ricky when he first joined, that people can kind of relate to.
Yeah.
He clearly likes a beer. He likes his horses. Yeah. Great for him. And as long as he's scoring goals, who cares what he does?
Yeah. Also, I do like a football player with a beard. Tom, you're aware of a beard. I'm aware of a moustache. There's not enough facial hair in football.
There's too many silly haircuts like Pogba,
and not enough silly facial.
Not enough
haircuts.
facial hair. But I think maybe Charlie and I have facial hair for a similar reason. It's to hide our excess chin capacity. But yeah, I like Charlie Austin because he looks like a good time Charlie.
Yeah. So let's talk about some other players. And also a little bit about the tactics. So my brother kind of messaged me and he was just like, Jack Stevens playing right back, kind of question mark. And I was like, well, actually, no, I think he's playing as part of a back three and James Ward-Prowse playing right wing back. And then I looked at the pitch again and I was like, oh no, he is in right back. And then I looked at the pitch again, oh no, he is in central defence. Yeah. Saints did something which I've not seen many teams do, but they switched between a back four and a back five. Effortlessly. And it was confusing enough for me as a fan watching, kind of understanding what the players' attributes are like and stuff like that. Jack Stevens was brilliant at it.
He looked like not only did he look very comfortable in that system, and credit to Ward-Prowse as well, who would kind of drop back as the auxiliary right back when we were under pressure, which obviously was quite a lot. But he looked so comfortable on the ball. He was a revelation. You forget he's only 23 and you almost think, well, we need to find a space for Jack Stevens in that team because he looks so cool and calm and collected. And maybe training with Van Dijk has kind of, will rub off on him a little bit because he just looks so intelligent. He still needs work in the air, but as a kind of ball-playing centre-back, he looks up there.
And not only that, he'd obviously been given a task of keeping a very close eye on Sanchez, who is one of the best players in the Premier League.
One of those skillful, tricky, nightmare players.
He's always one of those players when you're playing against him as a fan, you're always fearful when he gets the ball.
Well, we were at Arsenal. We were at St Mary's last year for the Wednesday night game against Arsenal, and we were all over Arsenal. And they get the ball to Sanchez, and Sanchez does a little shimmy, puts I think Yoshida and Stevens both on their respective arses and scores. Yeah,
but a much better performance from Stevens this time around. Sanchez was kept quiet for nearly all the game till about the 97th minute when he managed to get a cross in.
Yeah, there was lots to like about the performance. I thought Ward-Prowse looked great, and there was that bit at the end where Ward-Prowse dinks it over. I think was it Sanchez, someone's head. And they looked like really full of confidence. There was a lot to like, but again, we spoke earlier about the tactical savviness of Pellegrino, and what I hope now is that Saints fans will really get behind him. And when they look at that team sheet, when it's announced at 2:00 on the Twitter feed, it's not groans of, if it's not plastic Moroccan fans that say like no Boufal, then
no Boufal, no party,
no Boufal, no watching, no party. But hopefully there'll be more behind the team. Like, look, he knows what he's doing, and against Arsenal, we very much saw that.
I mean, when that team lineup was announced, it was just like I just couldn't fathom how the squad was going to line up.
I held it upside down. I was trying to work it out. Yeah. Is Forster playing at left back? What's going on? But it worked. It really worked.
And actually, we didn't have a rigid formation.
No. And I think if other managers do that, if Guardiola does that, then everyone's like, oh, Guardiola's a genius. Or if Wenger does that, or, Pochettino.
Yeah.
But
I suppose the problem here is that we're starting to see Pellegrino's tactical nous. We haven't quite got to the point where we're getting the results yet. So, I mean, this has been a really positive chat through 5 games. At the end of the day, we've got 5 points from those 5 games.
Yeah. But how much did we expect to get? We didn't expect anything out of Man City.
No.
We probably, every Saints fan would have snapped their hand off to get a 1-1 at Arsenal, against Arsenal. We would have loved to have beaten Everton. Bournemouth away. We've come within, certainly in the last sort of 4 games. I think the Liverpool game is an anomaly. We've just got to move on and forget about it. Salah is going to do that to everyone this year. He's going to do it to bigger, better teams than us. Look at the last 4 games. We were 196th minute wonder strike away from picking up 6 points.
Yeah. So earlier today, I spoke to Michael Svensson.
The legend.
Yeah. Killer. As he was known.
The word legend is bandied around too much in football, but Michael Svensson is genuinely a legend.
Now, he watched the game Yes, so on television. So he's in Sweden at the moment. He's not down
What
in
does he do?
Southampton.
I guess I don't want to ruin their next podcast. But
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, listen into the next podcast,
Yeah, please
and
do.
you can find out, Tom. But
Can't wait.
he reckoned Giroud wouldn't have got that goal if he was in the centre of defence. He reckoned he'd have pinged it out with his head. And this, I think, maybe we've got to call into question my Yoshida.
yeah, I think it goes to show how big modern footballers are and how strong they are. Because Yoshida is, 6 foot? He's he's not like me. He's not a half pint. But we've seen a few times this season. Glenn Murray did it against with Cedric Suarez.
Yeah.
Sam Vokes did it against Yoshida, and it's a really obvious tactic, which is the big centre back, the big centre forward, just gets away from Van Dijk, and the quality of the players now, particularly someone like Giroud, who it was almost inevitable he would score the moment he came on. It does look to me like Yoshida kind of misjudges the flight of the ball somewhat.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier, and I was surprised at the time that as soon as Giroud started to warm up and come on, I'm very surprised because they were always going to go route one.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that we didn't see Hoyt come on for Yoshida just to give us literally an extra 4 inches of height.
Yeah.
Because I think had that been Hoyt instead of Yoshida, I don't think Giroud would have got that header.
Yeah, I think he was kind of on the naughty step, wasn't he, for his mistake against Bournemouth. I think Pellegrino, as a central defender, probably has a lot of pride in that position, and who wasn't going to get away with his mistake at Bournemouth. And although I agree that you're right, also I do wonder if this is something that if we keep hold of a manager for a bit longer, then they're going to understand. They're going to know, what the tactics are of these teams. That because we've all seen it before. With Arsenal, we knew exactly what was going to happen, and it's a shame that Pellegrino doesn't perhaps have someone in his team that has been around a little bit longer that can say, "Oh, right, they've just thrown on Giroud. Actually, Yoshida's not going to be big enough and strong enough against him. We need to get Hoot on."
Well, it's the same against Burnley.
Yeah.
The Burnley game, at 70 minutes, Sean Dyche chucks on another forward, and it totally threw Saints. And you wonder, is there someone more tactical now? So that's why people like Sammy Lee have been around forever, and will be around forever, is because they bring that level of just that extra suggestion, which can really make the difference, maybe 4 or 5 points over the season.
I think perhaps that's what we're missing on the bench. I think Eric Black seems to have gone, doesn't he?
I don't know. Is he? He was a bit controversial, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean,
not a popular choice. I mean, was Aston Villa got relegated. He was also caught out in that Telegraph sting on
he was found
football bung stuff.
The Telegraph never gave Saints any evidence.
Did they not?
Doing my job, that says a lot.
Yeah,
that's my view on Eric Black.
Okay,
but yeah, they do kind of get. But even then, you do wonder. All right, maybe we're being too kind on Pellegrino here, because Pellegrino spends his entire life training and watching footballers. So he must have known that as soon as...
I mean, it's not like Arsenal or a League Two side that are playing in a cup, is it?
And that Giroud is some unknown 17-year-old that's just come out of the academy. Like he's an international... he plays in major tournaments. He's incredibly handsome. And he was always
going to... love a handsome football.
I do. It's because it could have been me. No. But he was so obvious what he was going to do. But... the positives, we weathered that storm. Yeah. And until they did that, they didn't really look like scoring. So, again, and what a great save from Forster.
Oh, Forster, I think, had a fantastic performance against Arsenal. Still, to this day, Forster's greatest ever game, I think, was at the Emirates when we drew 0-0. It's a game that I was there. I was behind the goals. I watched Forster make save upon save upon save.
He was unbeatable, wasn't he, that day?
Incredible. And I think maybe that's why I'm less likely to jump in on the kind of Forster bashing bandwagon, which sometimes happens on social media and in amongst Saints fans in the pubs when we're all chatting with each other.
I'm guilty. I've been guilty of that.
Yeah. But one of the things he's not been able to do is stop shots that come down towards him low.
And it didn't get much lower than that shot from Ramsey.
Yeah. Oh, what a relief to see him save that. When he saved that, it made me feel so happy, not just for him, but also for my own nerves. It's like suddenly knowing that Forster can save a low shot again.
But if you imagine what that does for Van Dijk, what that does for Yoshida and Stevens, they know that. I do think we've had this crisis of confidence in Forster, and he appears to be coming out for crosses more. He's always been a bit of a vampire before, so it's good to know he's not scared of crosses. He just looks a bit more dominant, and I wonder if his confidence is up. Maybe they're training him a bit more. He looks to be the kind of player that we've had flashes of in the past.
Yeah. So Forster had a good game. Ryan Bertrand, I thought, also had an excellent game.
He was a flyer.
Yeah. He did really well. He put a wonderful ball through, I think, to Charlie Austin in the first half. He linked up quite well with Redmond on occasions. And 2
assists against Everton.
Yeah. Also, he had the chance to bury Arsenal. And you got to say fair play to a left back to be up there as part of a two-man attack.
Also, he wins the header, or if he doesn't win the header, he kind of causes him much of a difficulty.
It does enough
to get the ball to Charlie Austin. Or Tadic, sorry, to play him in. He looks great. He arguably he should score more goals. Yeah. That's a criticism of him for a player that plays so advanced. But he's setting up goals. He looks hungry. I think he's realised. I think one of the it's funny, isn't it? The law of unintended consequences, where someone like Danny Rose, who was England's first choice left back, is now being kept out of the Spurs team pretty much by a Welsh left back. Luke Shaw is nowhere. All of a sudden, like, Ryan Bertrand is going to go to the World Cup as England's first choice left back. There's a lot to play for Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah, and also Ryan Bertrand has pretty much typically always played part of a back four. He's now suddenly being asked to do a little bit more on the kind of back five. He'll play that wing back position. And I think that chance he had against Arsenal where he got to the one-on-one, flicked the ball lovely over check, but just
it's a tough skill to do, I imagine. I mean, as fast as it was, of course, he probably would have done it differently. He might have tried to go past check, but just to be there, I think, was really exciting. And these are the chances that we weren't creating 2 months ago.
Yeah,
we weren't. And sooner or later, we're going to really tonk someone. I'm kind of hoping it'll be Leicester.
Yeah. On Wednesday. Do we want to talk about that? I mean, you also wanted to mention Romeo, and I'd also quite like to mention Pierre Emile Hojbjerg again.
Yeah, just a shout out to Romeo. He seems to have kind of got back in that team, and against Everton he was brilliant. Against Arsenal, how many shots did he block? How many passes did he intercept? He looked a bit like Lamina. Maybe Lamina's, and also I think maybe he thought, I'll play with Lamina, and now the manager's saying, well, I'm not going to play both of you because I've got Hojbjerg, I've got Davis, I've got Ward-Prowse. So
suddenly there's a bit more.
There's competition in the same way that Romeo forced Victor Wanyama to up his game.
Yeah,
maybe Lamina's going to force Romeo to up his game.
Yeah,
and you were talking earlier about our squad.
Yeah, and Romeo had that chance, hit the crossbar, and Pierre Emile Hojbjerg, I thought, again, had a really good game. And this is where I think it's really exciting. Who do we have on the bench?
But Hojbjerg, the lung busting run.
To cut the ball out.
Love that.
Yeah. Everyone loves that. So a fan loves that sort of last ditch sprinting. I mean, the amount of times you see, I think Alan Shearer kind of quite often falls into doing the same old sort of stuff on Match of the Day. But that is the kind of thing that they always love on Match of the Day. When a player like runs their heart out, it makes a stop. And they always hate it when players are just kind of like casually walking back because they've given up. And it does show, if you do chase those things down, you sometimes get the opportunity to stop it all happen.
But in doing so, Hojbjerg probably booked his place in the Leicester lineup. He shows that he's got so much to his game, and I think you're absolutely right. Fans love to see that stuff.
Yeah, but maybe he hasn't guaranteed his spot in the Leicester lineup because the competition for places suddenly feels quite fierce.
Well, you pointed out earlier. Well, tell me what you said earlier about our bench on Sunday.
So on our bench, we have Gabbiadini, we have Shane Long, we have Stephen Davis, we have Sofiane Boufal, we have Mario Lamina, Hoot has been dropped, Cedric Suarez is still to come back from injury, Josh Sims started training
can't wait
again.
For Josh Sims.
We suddenly have a bit of fierce competition for places.
There's a squad there.
Yeah, and actually we've seen over the last 4 games good use of the squad. We've seen different players come in at different times and do different jobs. And, Ward-Prowse had a stinker against Bournemouth, but then he did a good job against Arsenal. Jack Stevens been from nowhere, comes in, plays
Jack
fantastic.
Stevens has he even played a minute under Pellegrino? I don't think he had.
No,
He?
I mean, I think maybe a few here and there, but certainly hasn't been a big part. Comes in from the cold, does really well. Pierre Emile Hojbjerg, nothing until the game against Everton. Comes in, potentially man of the match.
Yeah.
There, and I think he actually did get man of the match against Arsenal from Franny Benali. Who was doing the commentary. It was nice to have a Saints commentator though, wasn't it?
I don't think he was meant to be there, was he?
No.
Whoever was meant to be there.
Owen Hargreaves. Yeah.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, got stuck in the snow apparently.
So they called Franny up. It's great, and I think you're right. The squad, it always makes you wish that we'd taken maybe that Carabao Cup game against Wolves a little bit more seriously.
So they'd had a few more games.
Yeah, because I think we saw
squad.
last season the impact of a good cup run. We've got that squad. We've got enough players, and I think we'll see on Wednesday. Yeah, you probably will see like a Lamina come back in starting 11 because there's a lot of games for people to play.
And I suppose one of the issues as well is like when you don't have something like the Carabao Cup or the Europa League to rotate your squad, players like Hesketh, players like Josh Sims, who are kind of like there and probably going to be in the under-21s, under-23s, they're not going to get the opportunities at the moment with the competition so fierce.
Yeah, and that's a shame. I think players like Hesketh and Sims would love a chance in that team, particularly Hesketh when Tadic wasn't playing well, and I don't think you can probably compare the two just yet, but Hesketh is clearly a talent. Yeah, you're right, and I think now it does kind of leave it all up to the FA Cup, which unfortunately the big boys do take quite seriously.
Yeah. I think Southampton at the moment are just a little bit of form, perhaps a little bit of sharpness away from starting to be a really good side again. And I think it's a shame that it's taken us all the way to December to start seeing a better Saints. My God, it would have been better if we'd started the season like this. I think we would be good contenders for getting up into the Europa League positions. I think 7th, 8th place, we would certainly be in and around it.
I think if we'd maybe start with Charlie Austin, he probably wouldn't be still playing every game now, but I think we would have put some of those what we'd consider easier games against the Swanseas. Yeah, we'd have put them to the sword.
So we've got Leicester at home on Wednesday. We have the return of Claude Puel,
who will get booed. But
do you think he's going to get booed? I was wondering about
football
this.
Fans are like that, aren't they? But I don't think he deserves it.
No, I think he deserves a warm round of applause. I mean, he didn't. He didn't leave. Like, he basically got sacked. He got moved on by Saints, despite doing a relatively good job.
I don't know what more. I mean, we've spoke about this, but I don't know what more Saints fans, or the club wanted from him. They wanted him to finish in the European places. Yeah, well, I mean, more goals.
They wanted sexy football as well.
Yeah, but even then, maybe it wasn't Puel's fault that players couldn't hit Kazans to the banjo.
And I mean, Puel kind of implied when he joined Leicester that Leicester would be fine because they have better strikers than Southampton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what would we do with a Jamie Vardy? Riyad Mahrez is kind of our Buffal, but Riyad Mahrez does it every week. So I think you'll see a really good game on Wednesday. It's kind of weird because there's nothing to play for, but also everything to play for.
I kind of think I was feeling a bit more confident against Arsenal. I thought we might get a result against Bournemouth. I thought we'd give ourselves a decent showing at Man City. I don't know. I could kind of see Puel doing a little bit of a number on us here.
I can 1-0 Mahrez. That's it. Yeah, I can see that. I think, but they've not lost in something like 9 games. I think they've picked up since he joined. They've picked up the most points outside of like Man City, Man United, and Liverpool.
Oh,
so
really?
They're on a really good run of form, and if we can get a win, that's a big result. Yeah, big result.
I mean, you were saying to me before we started recording, they have to lose at some point. Is it going to be Wednesday?
You'd hope so. Yeah. I'd like so. I mean, I think they've only lost 1 game in the kind of 9 that he's had, and you think they'll have to lose at some point. Vardy at the weekend did look very tired, so whether they'll rest him, and they're a bit like Saints, and they've got 1 great goal scorer, and then their second string forwards aren't up there, which I'm definitely going to now regret saying.
Leicester aren't necessarily that kind of different from Saints, really. I think in terms of kind of personnel, squad strength.
I think the season they won the league, it could have been us. Like man for man.
Yeah.
They did not have better players than us. Mahrez was inspired.
Yeah,
Kante was unbelievable.
Yeah,
but
perhaps a level above Romeo.
Yeah, but they should be an inspiration to Saints.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of Saints players in interviews after Leicester won the title saying, that's what we've got to aspire to. They've proved that it is possible for, a decent squad, albeit not a top 6 kind of budget squad, can actually go out there, beat the big boys. I mean, we know we could have easily have beaten Arsenal. We could actually have nearly have beaten Manchester City. We know that there are wins against the big teams there.
It's a game of fine margins, isn't it? And, we just need to start turning some of those things aren't going against us. Those Ryan Bertrand chances, we need to kind of start turning them in our favour. Yeah,
and maybe kind of actually doing a couple of those defensive header clearances would be pretty good as well.
Yeah.
So, Tom, can I push you for a prediction against Leicester?
Obviously, we'll win. I'm going to predict a 1-0 win for Saints. Tight 1-0 win. Okay.
I was just looking back at a tweet from Andrew H2K17. A few weeks ago, he asked everyone for their score predictions for the games from Liverpool on all the way up to Huddersfield.
You've done pretty well on this.
Yeah, I've done fairly well. And in that, I predicted that we would beat Leicester 2-1. So I'm going to have to stick with my original prediction.
Well, you've been pretty Mystic Meg-like on your other predictions in that thread, so yeah, I don't see why you deviate.
It's not been totally accurate. I thought Liverpool would beat us 2-0. Obviously, they beat us 3-0. Correct result. I thought we'd beat Everton 3-1. We would beat them 4-1. Again, correct result. Score was off. I thought Man City would beat us 2-1.
They did.
Sadly. I thought we would beat Bournemouth 1-0. I was one goal away there. So didn't get that one right. I thought Arsenal would beat us 2-1, and we drew 1-1 with that one. So, yeah, it's
pretty good.
It's not. I mean, I guess I don't know how good Mystic Meg is at football predictions, but
she's surprisingly good.
Yeah. It's that crystal ball. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Saints. I really hope that we beat Leicester, although I wouldn't be too surprised if Corpwell gets one over us. The next game that I'm going to, though, however, is the one at Stamford Bridge.
Saturday. Very jealous of this.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We could get...
I haven't been to Stamford Bridge for quite a long time. I think the last time I went to Stamford Bridge, they had wooden seats.
Yeah, it's going to be different now. I'll tell you that.
And I think they had a car park at one end of the pitch. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I think it's mid-90s. Maybe
yeah, we used to go.
Yeah,
used to go, and it's just one of those quite old hooligan grounds.
Yeah, I remember my dad kind of. We were kind of in the Chelsea end. And we did, my brother and I, perhaps didn't quite bottle in our celebrations when we scored particularly well. My dad, I remember, was pretty, should we say, scared, intimidated by the Chelsea supporting chaps around us.
Yeah, my dad was a policeman. He used to do police work at Chelsea in the shed, doing with the hooligans. So yeah, he used to say it was quite a terrifying place to be.
Yeah. Anyway, that game, I'd love to see us get a result. We do sometimes. We do.
Yeah, we've got good
history.
We've got results of getting. We've got a history of getting results against Chelsea, and
I mean, this is the kind of game though that you want James Beattie back for. He always did well at Stamford Bridge.
Maybe Anders Svensson. I think they don't look. They don't look like they're certainly not the team from last year.
No.
And they do appear to have kind of conceded the title now, as I think everyone has to. So it'll be interesting to see, because I guess there's still a lot to play for, but it'll be fascinating to see, because I guess that kind of game is we would look at now. I think it's possibly winnable.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously midweek action, but obviously we've got midweek action as well. It's a bit of a shame this one doesn't come after a Champions League match, because I think if it came after a Champions League match, I'd back us to get a result. I think it's going to be difficult.
Morata looks like a hell of a player. I mean, again, I don't want to get a pattern here, but God, he's handsome.
I'm looking at my prediction here. In response to Andrew, I put that this game was going to be 2-2. I think that was maybe a bit confident and a bit cocky.
If we could score 2 goals away at Chelsea, that's a hell of a good result. Yeah, we'll wait.
I mean, do you remember the game? Was it with Stephen Davis and Sadio Mane?
And Graziano Pella. Oh, it was a great game, that was.
Let's have one of those.
That was brilliant. John Terry put on his arse by Sadio Mane. Yeah, that was great. That was when they were in that real funk with Mourinho. It was brilliant to watch.
So then after Chelsea, we have a run of fixtures: Huddersfield, Tottenham, Manchester United, and Palace. That takes us up to the end of the year. Huddersfield, Tottenham, Man United, Palace. I think there's 2 winnable ones in there and 2 that perhaps are going to be a bit more tricky.
Well, those Spurs at home, they're home. Anything go? Well, actually, no, they're steamrolling people now, aren't they? They're actually starting to do that again. Yeah, I mean, if you'd said 6 points from those games, you would take that.
Yeah, if you offer me 6 points.
I mean, you got to think they'll get 3 points at home to Palace, and you should expect them now. Huddersfield don't look like they're struggling a little bit now.
Yeah. So I think on the whole, a little bit more positive than last. Well, probably a lot more positive.
A lot more positive.
Last time we spoke.
No one's questioning the tactical nous of the manager. No one's questioning the desire of the players, and no one's questioning whether we can score goals.
Well, that's a relief, isn't it?
That's what we need to do.
I mean, those were all genuine questions a few weeks ago.
It sounds melodramatic, but if we weren't scoring goals, there was a chance we could get relegated. Particularly when Brighton and Huddersfield were looking pretty good, because you'd expect them just to get tonked every game. Yeah. Thank God for Palace, I say, and Swansea.
Yeah, and thank God for Benteke forcing himself upon that penalty. Funnily enough, I kind of think Palace are almost more likely to do a Leicester. Do you remember the season when they did their great escape before they won the title? I think Palace are better than their points suggest.
Swansea look pretty dire.
West Brom look pretty dire.
With no real... I mean, Rondon's a good player. Jay Rodriguez we love, but isn't... they lack a real... I mean, at least Swansea have got Bonnie.
Yeah.
Palace have Benteke.
Yeah. I think for Saints, we've seen a little bit of a fight. We've seen a little bit of tactical nous. I think it's now time to see a few more points on the board. Wouldn't it be great if we just got 3 points on the board against Leicester on Wednesday? I think that'd make a huge, huge difference in terms of confidence.
But go to Chelsea and think they can win.
I mean, the pressure would be off going to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, you're right.
And whereas if we don't get the 3 points against Leicester, we're going to be looking at trying to scrape a point at Stamford Bridge.
Which you don't want to be doing.
Pressure on.
Yeah.
And then, it puts an awful lot of pressure on the game against Huddersfield, where actually you'd much rather them be going into that match feeling a bit more relaxed, being able to play, express themselves a bit more.
Well, you got to think, I mean, Huddersfield is the game where we could finally bag a load of goals. You'd hope. So, yeah, I feel really optimistic.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's a fantastic way to finish the podcast. You're optimistic. You're about to get married next year. You've just celebrated your birthday. Hooray.
Let's crack on.
Right, so thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you've stuck with us all the way to the end for us having a much more enjoyable podcast recording session this time than perhaps some of the more recent ones. Of course, if you want to get in contact with the podcast, please do so on Twitter at SaintsFC Podcast. Email us saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. Get onto iTunes and give us a review, and maybe we will read that out on the next episode. And I've just interviewed Michael Svensson earlier today.
When are you going to get that online, do you think? That's lots of reaction on Twitter, lots of excitement about that.
Yeah, I did manage to pretty much ask every single one of the questions that people sent in, including the one, would you prefer forks for arms or spoons for legs?
The big one.
So
can't wait to know that.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll obviously announce it on Twitter. I'll announce it on the Saints web forum. I'll get it on the Reddit page. And of course, obviously the easiest way that you can find out about when the next episode of the Saints FC podcast is to get onto your podcasting app and hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. It's cheerio from me.
It's good night from me.
Ta-ta.